Algebra, Unit 2, Lesson 2, Multi-Step Equations, Video 2. Solve equations with a distributive property. The distributive property allows us to remove the parentheses by distributing the value outside of parentheses with each term located inside the parentheses. Letter A. 8 times the quantity p minus 3 equals 96. We have always talked about when you're distributing to maybe, first thing, show the arrows of you literally distributing or giving the value to everything inside. So 8 times p is 8p. 8 times negative 3 is minus 24 equals 96. Now, if you're liking to drop the wall to show a balanced scale, you can do that and drop this wall. If that makes your work more clustered, then just don't do it. In order for us now to solve the equation, it's a two-step. We have multiplication by the variable p, and we have the subtraction of 24. So we're going to work through PEMDAS backwards, or SADMAP, and get rid of any subtraction first. So in order to do that, I'm going to do the inverse. So I'm going to add 24 to both sides. From there, I will have 8p equals 120. Okay, so now the only thing left is p is being multiplied by 8, so the inverse of that would be divide by 8. I'll be left with p equals 15. Since I've solved for p, I am finished. Letter B, 2/3 z. Letter B, 2/3 times the quantity z plus 3 equals 27. So again, I'm going to distribute the 2/3. I get 2/3 z plus the fraction 2/3 times the whole number 3. The 3's cancel, you're left with 2 equals 27. And again, we have a two-step equation. So we're going to do the order of operations in reverse. Subtract 2 from both sides. We get 2/3 z equals 25. Now the next step could be to divide by 2/3, as that would cancel out the coefficient on z, and do it to both sides. Or our shortcut method is that, of course, we multiply by the reciprocal, which cancels out our 2/3 z. So we're left with the z equals 75. Again, multiplying a whole number by a fraction over 2, which then reduces to z equals 37.5. Since we solved for z, we are finished. I also want to mention that using the distributive property is sometimes a choice. For example, if I look back at letter A, we distributed the 8 times both pieces to get 8p minus 24. We are also allowed to almost leave the distribution alone and talk about what is the basics that's happening. Well, p here is being subtracted by 3 and multiplied by 8. So instead of distributing, we could have, in essence, divided both sides by 8. And in doing so, we would have gotten, on the left side, just p minus 3, which seems a lot simpler, equals 12. 96 divided by 8 is 12. Now we're left with a one-step 6th grade problem. We add 3 to both sides, and we get p equals 15, which is the same thing we got the other way. So just keep in mind, when you see distribution, sometimes it might be easier to not distribute, but to divide. Please try problems C and D on your own, and then we're going to move to letter E. Again, if we think about using the distributive property, we can. 1/3 is being multiplied by 18, so that will get us 6. 1/3 is being multiplied by negative 72d, that's going to get us negative 24d. And 1/3 is being multiplied by 12, which is going to get us 4. Okay, so now on the left side I see 3 terms. Notice that these two are like terms. So I'm going to combine those. Now I want to include, maybe I add an addition here, a positive 6 and this positive 4. So I'm going to end up then with 10 minus 24D. The operation or symbol that's to the left of the number is what's happening. So this is a plus 4, this is a plus 4, not anything else. Equals negative 24, and now I'm back to 2 steps. So we have minus 24D, I'm going to leave that alone, and since this is a positive 10, I'm going to then subtract 10 from both sides. So I'm left with negative 24D equals negative 24 minus 10 is negative 34. Now let's see, I need to divide itself, so I'm going to divide by negative 24 and do it to both sides, which gets us to D equals, negative divided by negative is a positive, so 34 over 24. Let's see if we want to reduce that a bit then. We could make this 17 over 12. I just divided both by 2. And that's it. That's as far as we can go. So D equals 17 over 12. Again, if you like mixed numbers, you could make it a mixed number. You can also make it a decimal, as long as it is equivalent to 17 over 12. Please go ahead and try letter F on your own. Don't be nervous because there's decimals. You can work with those. Make them fractions or leave them as decimals. And then we're going to move down to solve multi-step equation. When equations require more than one step to solve, they are called multi-step equations. To solve these equations, we must undo each operation working backwards. And again, that speak of working backwards. Well, we're supposed to always be working in PEMDAS, the order in which all operations must happen. But when we're solving equations, it actually flip-flops and becomes SADMAP. We're just writing it out backwards and performing those operations backwards. So letter A, I see that 11 is being multiplied by x. We're then subtracting 4, and that all equals 29. So I see subtraction. I'm going to get rid of that first. So I'm going to add 4 to both sides. I get 11x equals 33. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 11, and I get x equals 3. I've solved for x, and I am finished. Letter B, we're also going to do. So we're still thinking about that SADMAP. Any subtraction addition had to come first. Now, when I have a fraction, the numerator and denominator are two separate expressions. It's almost as though I have invisible parentheses. So although we're doing SADMAP, parentheses comes very last. So we're going to leave our numerator alone. In order to get rid of the division of 8, I'm going to rewrite the problem so I have more room. I need to multiply both sides by 8. 8 over 8 cancels to 1, so I'm left with just the numerator. A plus 7 equals 40. Subtract 7 from both sides, and I get A equals 33. Please try the next two on your own. Moving to the back side of the page, we have some word problems. Letter E, a music store has sold 3/5 of their hip-hop CDs, but 10 were returned. Now the store has 62 hip-hop CDs. How many were there originally? I always like to define a variable. So maybe I start with let x equal, how many were the original? Well, since that's the question, that's my variable's definition. Let x equal the number of CDs originally. Now, if I do this defining the variable, I'm just going to, when I have multi-step problems or more than one variable, I'm going to know exactly what I'm looking for. So I recommend you get in the habit of that now, why the problem doesn't seem as hard. So a music store has sold 3/5 of their hip-hop CDs. Well, of their hip-hop CDs is the beginning. The word of means multiply, so it sounds like our first expression or first term is going to be 3/5 times the original number of CDs. So they sold those, okay? But 10 were returned. So if 10 were brought back, we need to add 10 back into the store. And now the store has 62. This means the store is equal to 62. So SADMAP says I need to get rid of subtraction or addition first. So I see addition. I'm going to perform the inverse operation and subtract 10 from both sides. I now have 3/5 x equals 52. And again, I'm going to reciprocal. I'm going to multiply by 5/3 so that I get x equals 52 times 5/3, which gets us 130 CDs. Please try letter F on your own. As we scroll down the page, the problems start to get more complex. Take a deep breath. Don't just see that there's lots of things happening. Do it one step at a time. Remember, try to clean up one side of an equation before you move anything. Always clean up each side independently, then start balancing and making moves. On the first one, there's nothing I can do with 837, so I'm going to distribute the 8. I get 8x plus 800 minus 3 equals 837. I'm going to combine like terms, so now 800 minus 3, I get 8x plus 797 equals 837. I'm left with two operations now, so I'm going to subtract 797 from both sides, and I get 8x equals 40. Divide both sides by 8, I'm left with x equals 5. Since I've solved for x, again, I'm finished. Don't let the number of numbers and variables distract you. Just take one step at a time. Letter H is pretty similar. Letter I has two distribution problems. Just do those independently. Combine like terms and then solve. We'll work on that one next. So we're on letter I. After distributing, I will get negative 12x minus 9 plus 24x plus 4 equals 43. Again, I recommend that you always have colored pencils around, highlighters, so that maybe it helps you to visually see things. So here I have negative 12x. I have a negative 9. I'm going to go back to red because here is a positive 24x, and back to blue because here is a positive 4. So now I'm just going to clean up the stuff on the left side of the equation, the equal sign. I'm just going to combine any like terms that I can. So negative 12x plus 24x gives us a positive 12x. Negative 9 plus 4 gives us a negative 5. So everything on the left side is cleaned up, so now I have equals 43. Notice I'm still working my way down the page one step at a time. Don't go off to the side and start doing problems over here. Stay right down the page. Again, if you want to draw the line, your equal sign, to get your balance, you can. You do not need to. Again, I'm back to two things. X is being multiplied and subtracted. I must get rid of the subtraction first. So I'm left with 12x equals 48. Divide both sides by 12. And then I'm left with x equals 4. I've solved for x, and I'm finished. Please finish the rest of the page on your own. Please remember not to get nervous when you see a lot of operations and a lot of variables. Complete each side of the equation, simplify it by doing PEMDAS. Once you've done everything that you can, then start to move things from one side of the equation to the other in the order of SADMAP.